Shibuzen is an educational organization for demon weapons and meisters founded by Death. Demon weapons are humans who can take on the forms of traditional weapons. Meisters are the warriors who fight through their pair bond with demon weapons. Their main aim is to protect the world and prevent creatures of destruction called Kishin from awakening to run amok. One night, while the strange smiling moon overlooks the city, a woman walks through the secluded cobblestone alleyways. A Kishin ambushes and kills her, devouring the soul that springs from her bleeding corpse. Another young woman witnesses the murder and screams. Probably not the best idea. This draws the devil's attention, leading it to chase after her through the streets. As she escapes, she falls at the worst possible time, allowing the Kishin to close the distance. Before the monster can have its next meal, Meister Maka and her demon weapon Evans interrupt, giving the terrified lady a chance to flee. Souls that break away from the human's path run the risk of turning into Kishin. Under the directive given to them by Death, they prepare to engage the devil. So Evan turns into a scythe, allowing Maka to wield him, ready to attack. The Kishin launches a preemptive attack on the duo as they skillfully block and evade. Clearly having the upper hand, they dispatch the devil with ease. Evans transforms back into his human shape and consumes the corrupted soul. Along with their goal of keeping peace, a Meister also aims to gather and feed their demon weapons 99 Kishin souls plus 1 witch soul. This allows the weapon to obtain the qualification to become a Death Scythe and having the honor of being one of Death's weapons. The dynamic duo have already collected the 99 souls. With only 1 witch soul left, they excitedly look forward to attaining the prestigious title. Maka breathes on a shop window, creating condensation. She writes Death's room number, opening a portal to communicate with the headmaster. She tells him of their progress. Death praises her, stating that she is an excellent Meister just like her mother. Maka's dad, who I refer to as an off-brand Shanks, also happens to be a Death Scythe. He warns Evans to keep his eyes off his daughter. It may come as a shock to him that Evans is an absolute Sigma male and is not even interested in his daughter. She does not have the desired features he wants in a woman. He likes his women heavy-chested. Her dad shows affection toward her, but she straight up disowns him, which breaks his heart. Death brings it back to business, warning them that countless Meisters have lost their lives when fighting a witch, so they should be careful. He also adds that if they mess up, all their previously gathered souls will be confiscated. The duo make their way to the witch Blair's house to take her soul. An overly eager Evans busts in while their target is having a bath and finds his face in between a heavy chest. He gets too distracted by what he sees. The witch gets out of the bath and puts her serious face on when Evans transforms into his weapon state. After seeing his awesome form, she expresses interest in owning the scythe. Before they even get the chance to prepare for battle, Blair uses her Halloween cannon to quickly defeat them by blasting the duo out of her pumpkin crib. The following day, Maka's father visits a love bar where the girls discuss the fact that he is going through a divorce with his wife for his city boy lifestyle. They also add that his daughter hates him. He hears all of this since they are right next to him. He quickly gets up and pays off his bill before leaving due to embarrassment and pure sadness. Meanwhile, Maka and Evans fail 3 consecutive times to get Blair's soul. They engage her in combat on their 4th attempt, but Maka is constantly on the back foot. Elsewhere, Death watches over them whilst criticizing her father for going to have fun with women when his daughter is in danger. As they watch on, the principal notices something weird about Blair. The duo ultimately vanquish the witch when Evans creates an opening by pretending to betray Maka. With Blair's guard down, the Meister delivers the final cut. The demon's weapon eats the witch's soul, expecting some dramatic change. However, Evans feels absolutely nothing. It turns out that Blair is just a cat with large amounts of magical power. Because they didn't meet the criteria, the souls that they have gathered thus far will get confiscated, meaning that the duo will have to start all over again. As they leave the scene, Blair comes back to life because she's a cat and follows Evans due to her interest in him. Elsewhere, another Meister of Shibuzen named Black Star prepares to execute the Kishin boss Al Capone and his subordinates as they feast on human souls. His demon weapon Tsubaki reminds him of some shinobi principles, as he's an assassin-style Meister. The young lad disregards everything she said. He jumps down screaming as he lands on the table. To the devil's confusion, Black Star introduces himself while stating his intention to kill them. Tsubaki changes to her human form and berates him for his shenanigans. The onlooking Kishins start to shoot at the intruders. The assassination attempt is a clear failure, so he suggests that they retreat. She changes to smoke bomb mode, which enables her to escape. With them gone, the Dawn is notified that they have found the location of the witch Angela Leon. He intends to obtain her power to make the Mafia family invincible. Now out of the danger zone, Black Star delusionally thinks that he actually did something significant back there. Tsubaki worriedly reminds him that they are yet to capture a single Kishin egg. He reassures her that he will shock her and surpass her doubts, but she doesn't seem convinced. The following day at Shibuya, Tsubaki sifts through the mission boards to find a good job. An irritated Black Star points out that they haven't finished the Capone job. Since they are on a losing streak, she feels like they should pivot to an easier mission. As they discuss, Maka and Evans approach them after hearing that they failed another mission. Maka comments that it is all for nothing if he did capture any eggs of Kishin because of what happened to them earlier. Tsubaki asks how their mission went. Suddenly, the depressed duo are reluctant to answer. An announcement is made requesting Black Star and Tsubaki to report to the death room. The principal questions them on their failed assassination of Capone. Tsubaki apologizes while Black Star confidently assures Death that he will turn Tsubaki into a death scythe. Not understanding the gravity of the situation, he tries to give the principal his autograph but gets a chop to the head instead. Death acknowledges the duo's skill but notices that Black Star is never serious during missions. He updates them on the Capone mission, alerting them that the Dawn is on the move to obtain Angela's power. The witch seems to have a very powerful guardian protecting her, but if Capone defeats him and gets her power, it will spell trouble. Black Star calculates that if he defeats Capone, his men, and the witch, he can create a death scythe in one swoop. Before Death can finish, he runs off to execute the mission. Tsubaki catches up and urges that they should come up with a plan. Meanwhile, Capone along with his men arrive at Angela's place. The Dawn gives his men the order to kill Mifune, who is the witch's bodyguard. After some short time, Black Star and Tsubaki also reach the witch's abode but are surprised to see a whole bush of Kishin eggs all over the place. Mifune launches a surprise attack which Black Star easily dodges. He notices Capone's cigar and asks the swordsman if he's responsible for taking them out. Mifune is more interested in his intentions for coming, to which the Meister makes clear by challenging him to a duel. The Guardian employs one of his specialist style and scatters katanas all over the battlefield like the fourth Hokage. He attacks Black Star by randomly grabbing the blades he scattered earlier. The Meister gains an advantage by deploying his smoke bomb but quickly loses his edge when he shouts as he attacks. Mifune quickly counters and cuts him down. Black Star recovers and starts to take the fight seriously. Using the ideas Tsubaki highlighted earlier, he perfectly masks his presence, creating an opening for himself to end the fight. The witch Angela rushes down to prevent Mifune from taking any more damage. It turns out that she is a witch kid, that is why he's protecting her. Black Star decides to do the moral thing by sparing the little girl. He returns back to Shibuya with the Kishin souls and presents them to Death. Since he didn't vanquish them, Black Star feels like he's too big to benefit from someone's hard work. Later that night, Death the Kid, son of Death, intercepts a Kishin trying to steal some tasty souls. Before they fully engage it, him and his demon weapons Patty and Elizabeth strike a pose. Kid gets irritated and scolds Patty for being out of line since symmetry means everything to him. As he complains, the Kishin escapes with the souls. He carries on his lecture stating that symmetry is the reason he uses twin pistols, but it disturbs him that in their human forms, the weapon sisters don't have the same height or assets. A fed-up Elizabeth points out that his hairstyle is unsymmetrical, which kills him inside. He reports to his father, who points out that he doesn't really need to collect souls or train weapons since he is a Shinigami. Kid wants to make his weapons himself, unlike his dad. He has 2 demon weapons, so he has to collect double the souls. His father gives him a suitable target that can help him get to his goal faster. I don't know about you guys, but I smell nepotism. The next morning, Black Star and the rest gather at the mission board. They soon realize that someone has taken on a very difficult job. Black Star along with Evans go to investigate who it was. A teacher informs them that the mission was taken on by Death the Kid, who is making his way to Egypt. In the ancient pyramid of Anunus, a witch is using spirits she raised from the dead. She leads these mummies at night to feed on human souls. She utilizes the new souls to create even more mummies. Kid arrives at the pyramid on his skateboard. His obsession with symmetry rears its ugly head again when he notices its perfect symmetry. As the trio proceed inside, it dawns on Kid that a painting that he hung in his living room could be a bit to the right, so he starts to have a mental breakdown because of it. However, they venture further inside, dragging Kid along. The trio eventually encounter the mummies, but Kid is nowhere to be found. The guy left a note saying he went home to check the painting. Without their master, the demon weapons take matter into their own hands and alternate between human form and weapon form by using each other to dispatch the Kishins. In the main chamber, the witch is killed by the pharaoh shortly after resurrecting him. Elsewhere, We see Kid confirming that it was just his imagination, so he quickly makes his way back to the pyramid where he finds his weapons captured by the pharaoh. He breaks them free, but he's unable to attack the coffin as it is perfectly symmetrical. He takes some big damage as a consequence of his beliefs. The pharaoh decides to come out himself to deal the final blow, but unlike his coffin, he's completely unsymmetrical to Kid's ultimate disgust. An utterly appalled Kid unloads an entire clip on the asymmetrical abomination, which ends up destroying the pyramid. Later, as punishment, all the souls he gathered get confiscated. Back at the mission board, Black Star and Evans come to see that the job was completed, which takes them by surprise. Later, while on a mission, Phantom Priest crashes through a church window after being kicked into it by Maka wielding Soul in his scythe form. They then proceed to cut him in half to claim his soul. The next morning, Soul is in bed dreaming of eating when Blair in her human form lies on top of him in an attempt to awaken him to get out of bed and play. Maka then enters his room to tell him it is time for breakfast. Discovering Soul in such a compromising position with Blair's oversized oranges in his face, Maka is infuriated and kicks him out his bedroom window for his supposed pervertedness. Later that day, Maka and Soul wait for class to begin. Soul wants to speak with her, but she is trying to study her book. After Soul mocks her as a study hound, she retaliates by hitting him with her Maka chop. She reluctantly allows Soul to discuss what he wanted to talk about. His conversation was concerning the number of academy students and the kid next door who were beaten to a pulp. To scare Maka, Soul reveals the culprit is rumored to be a zombie with a hole on his forehead, and a frightened Maka hits him with her book again. While initially scared, she discounts Soul's story as only a rumor. Suddenly, Spirit Alburn walks into the classroom trying to make a strong impression as a no-nonsense teacher in order to impress Maka, but he succeeds only in annoying his daughter. Spirit explains he is only a temporary teacher to replace their previous instructor, who is now dead. His actions annoy Soul and Maka until their new teacher tells the students that the Death Lord has summoned them. As they walk under the guillotines forming the path from the academy into the death room, Black Star, who is holding Tsubaki in her weapon form, waits to surprise his classmates with a sneak attack, but his babbling alerts Maka and Soul to his position. After Black Star and Tsubaki explain that they were called by Shinigami as well, Maka approaches the Lord's Mirror to contact him. Shinigami explains that he wants the students to take a remedial class, much to their dismay. Speaking with Maka, he reminds the students that the duty of a Meister is to collect 99 evil souls and 1 witch's soul. Achieving this will transform a Meister's demon weapon into a death scythe. The Lord then reminds Maka and Black Star that together they have collected 0 souls. He confirms Soul's rumor of a zombie terrorizing the students is true, and that the zombie is their former teacher, Sid, whom they have to capture. While Black Star is pumped for this mission, Shinigami tells the students that if they fail to retrieve his soul, then they will be expelled from the academy. That evening, Maka and Black Star with their weapons arrive where Sid was buried. It is the same location he has been rumored to be haunting. The students are still struggling with the news Shinigami delivered about their possible expulsion. Soul screams for Sid to show himself so he is not expelled. Maka laments how she fails to uphold her model student status. Black Star is not bothered and would much rather defecate on Sid's grave. However, Tsubaki seems to be the only leveled-headed one and tries to keep everyone focused. Suddenly, Sid emerges from the ground and grabs Maka by her ankles whilst holding her upside down. Soul sees this and transforms, which breaks Sid's hold of his partner. As Maka and Black Star take hold of their now transformed weapons, Sid brags of the benefits to being a zombie. He also reminds his former students that as 1-star Meisters, they have no hope of defeating a 3-star Meister such as himself. Sid proves to be a highly capable foe in this remedial lesson as he wallops Black Star into the ground. Black Star increases his efforts after being hammered and lands a powerful kick on Sid. Meanwhile, Shinigami is watching the battle from the death room with his son. Sid then turns his attention to Maka and attacks with his own tombstone, but she avoids it to his surprise. His hesitance allows Maka to kick him in the face, knocking him to the ground. Soul then asks Maka to attempt Soul Resonance to attack with their new technique known as Witch Hunter. However, Maka and Soul have not perfected the technique. She consequently slips as a result of this and accidentally directs her attack at Black Star, but he has a narrow escape. Maka and Soul begin to blame each other, with neither of them accepting responsibility. While the Meisters are distracted, Sid dives underground to avoid their attacks until he sees an opening to counter. Black Star therefore uses Trap Star to surround the area around himself and Maka with Tsubaki's chains, which he uses to sense Sid's location. After Sid emerges from underground, Black Star wraps the chains around Sid, but also captures an infuriated Maka and Soul. While Shinigami is excited at the fight he has witnessed, Death the Kid, accompanied by Liz and Patty, asks for more information about the scientist who made Sid into a zombie. Kid learns from his father how powerful this scientist is as a Meister, and the danger that awaits Maka and Blackstar as they return the zombie back to its creator. The group arrive at the scientist's laboratory. Tsubaki has tied Sid with chains extending from her hair. The students are ready to face the mastermind who turned Sid into a zombie. As they stand there, they hear something approach from behind the laboratory's front doors. They prepare to see who the mastermind is. Dr. Frankenstein rolls out of the door on a chair with wheels, only to trip at the bottom part of the doorway and fall. Dr. Stein embarrassingly gets up and goes back inside to try his entrance again. After he tries for the second time, the same action as before is repeated, much to the group's confusion. After he confirmed he is the one who turned Sid into a zombie, he goes on to tell them that he is a scientist and that the whole world is an experiment, including himself. Dr. Stein then begins observing the souls of Maka and Soul. He tells them about themselves without even knowing who they are. Blackstar then interrupts the doctor and tries to be the center of attention. He charges at Stein to battle him, but the scientist easily blocks the ninja's attacks and strikes him. Upon hearing Tsubaki call out to her Meister, Stein analyzes her soul and recognizes it as being highly tolerable to Blackstar's energetic, self-centered soul. While Tsubaki stands alone to keep Sid constrained, Blackstar, alongside Maka armed with soul and weapon form, continue to battle Stein, yet the Meisters are easily blocked by the mad scientist. Elsewhere, Spirit is flirting with Blair, who is beginning her third day as a new employee at this business. After asking Spirit about how his relationship with Maka is going, he gets sad because it's not going well, so Blair tries to cheer him up. He begins reminiscing on the past of being Dr. Stein's demon weapon and his experiment tool. At the same time, Stein realizes Maka is the daughter of his previous weapon partner. The doctor then appears to go in for a direct attack against Maka, though she blocks it. A force wave from the attack sends her flying back. Meanwhile, Shinigami and the others watch the battle through a mirror. Death explains about how powerful a soul wavelength can be between a Meister and demon weapon. He compares it to a guitar and an amplifier, yet the doctor's soul wavelength and capabilities are great even without a demon weapon to sync with. Meanwhile, Maka charges at Stein only to easily get repelled back and for Soul to get heavily hurt. Stein seizes Maka by her pigtail and begins to make preparations to slice into her abs. Blackstar intervenes to rescue Maka and reveals he too can use Soul Menace, which frees her from the scientist's grasp. However, Stein appears unharmed from his attack. He explains that at the moment before Blackstar struck, he mimicked the ninja's soul wavelength and canceled the damage. Stein then uses his Soul Menace attack on Blackstar's head, severely damaging him and seeming to kill the ninja. Tsubaki screams her Meister's name, while a disturbed Soul yells to Maka that they must retaliate. But Maka falls to her knees, overwhelmed at what she senses. Her soul perception has manifested, which allows her to see just how large Stein's soul wavelength is. Upon seeing that the young Meisters and their weapons need help, Kid prepares to depart for Patchwork Laboratory to take down Stein. But Death orders him not to intervene because he is not a student at the academy. Kid therefore tells his father to enroll him and his weapons at the academy before departing. While on the way out of the academy, Kid collapses in the hallway, concerned whether he folded the tissue in a perfect manner. This worry delays Kid's rush to rescue Maka's team. Elsewhere, Maka is completely frozen, but Stein stands back calmly, waiting to see how these students will approach him. Soul grabs Maka's shoulders, he shakes her and encourages her to fight, but she pushes her weapon away, saying that if he could see just how formidable Stein's soul is, he would give up this fight as well. Soul retorts that no matter what Maka sees, she cannot give up this battle now. Thanks to the encouragement from Soul, Maka works up the courage to continue battling Stein, using Witch Hunter to push back the scientist. While Stein momentarily struggles to resist the attack, he ultimately deflects Maka's attack, which knocks her to the ground. Stein approaches the barely conscious Maka, but Soul changes out of his weapon form to shield Maka, telling Dr. Stein that if he is going to kill his Meister, the scientist will have to kill him first. Stein seems to agree and approaches to touch Soul on his head to congratulate them all for passing the remedial test. The students are confused, so Stein explains that this battle was simply part of their lesson. Death asks Stein to fight the students to test their partnerships as Meisters and weapons. They are shocked to learn that Sid was also a part of the lesson. Soul is outraged, wondering how the two adults adults could kill Black Star in this manner, but he sees that Tsubaki is tending to a recovered Meister. Stein severely injured Black Star yet lied about killing him, leaving the ninja embarrassed by his defeat and intending to avenge himself. For all the stress that this experience put upon her, Maka breaks down into tears. The next day, the 4 students struggled to recover from last night's battle. Maka had nightmares, and Black Star worries that Stein outshined him. Soul teases Maka that maybe her father will return as today's substitute teacher for Sid. All students are surprised to see a man with a screw through his head slam through the classroom doors. The 4 friends stare in horror as Stein announces himself to be their new homeroom teacher. Meanwhile, due to Death the Kid's OCD, he and his weapons leave for their first day of class at Academy 3 hours late. Dr. Stein begins his day of teaching with a vivisection. When Maka alerts her teacher that this is one of many vivisections he has performed in class, Stein notes that his subject today is unique, as this particular cuckoo that he will slice is an endangered species, which upsets his students. The doctor is then distracted by noting that Soul Eater and Black Star are absent. Maka explains the two are again skipping class. Tsubaki recalls Black Star apologizing to her and informing her that he will be Soul's Meister from now on. When Maka sarcastically suggests the 2 boys would be ideal partners due to their foolishness, Tsubaki grabs Maka by her collar before shaking her and shouting her disagreement. Outside the school's entrance, Black Star and Soul are waiting to meet Kid and end up missing another one of Stein's dissections. When Kid finally arrives at school, Black Star breaks one of the red spikes on the school building whilst addressing Kid. But Kid becomes angry because he ruined the symmetry, thus prompting him to engage in a duel. All the while, students in Stein's class hear the fighting and inform their teacher. Stein goes to referee and observe the fight along with Maka and Tsubaki. As a special lesson, he has Maka look at Kid and the Thompson sisters' wavelengths. Maka determines that their soul wavelengths and connection between the 3 of them are strong and stable despite how difficult it is to sync the wavelengths of 2 weapons at once. She concludes that Liz and Patty's adoration for Kid is what allows them to sync their wavelengths. Stein goes on to say that Liz and Patty grew up on the streets, and that their lives were much harder before they met Kid. He also states that the partnership works for Kid as well, since the sisters' laid-back attitudes help quiet Kid's neurotic tendencies. Not getting anywhere by attacking on their own, Black Star and Soul attempt to sync their wavelengths with their friendship combination, which ends in failure. Black Star then proceeds to pick up Soul, but fails miserably as their wavelengths do not match. After their failed attempt to sync, they proceed to attack Kid individually. Black Star manages to catch one of Kid's legs with his belt, giving Soul the time to attack in his weapon form. This attack appears to be ineffective as Kid manages to roll away from Soul, who is now stuck in the ground. He then drags Black Star's face straight into Soul. Tired of fooling around, Kid decides to use his death cannon, which effectively ends the battle. After an apparent decisive defeat, Kid unexpectedly spits up blood and falls over. Maka then informs those present that during Soul's last attack, a part of Kid's hair was chopped off, which caused him to lose his symmetry. This is something that Kid didn't notice until the fight was over. After Kid collapses to the floor, Soul and Black Star declare themselves the victors, since Kid was the one bleeding. Death later arrives to take Kid home. A curious Maka uses her soul perception to see what type of soul Death has. However, it appears he does not have a soul, as she cannot see it. The episode ends with a view of Death City, with Death's soul encircling the entire city, much like a force field.